turn
All right.
it over to you.
All right. Thanks, Cindy. So Michael King, yeah, LHP Engineering. Been at LHP now for 4.5 years, where kind of Dave Glass and I sort of had this crazy idea that if you put analytics and engineering together, we could do some pretty cool stuff. And this connected workplace health is, I think, a perfect example of sort of combining those capabilities, but also kind of drawing upon, our history. You mentioned 9/11, and again, part of what we do here on 49 Fridays is really sort of this entrepreneurial new business kind of approach. So, and this is probably a perfect blend of all that. And so if I set the stage, LHP, we're an engineering consulting company, work with a lot of big automotive industrial companies. And our group in particular focuses on things like smart factory and digital transformation and all things analytics. And so, things were going pretty smooth. Business was running nice and easy, nice looking prospects coming into 2020. And suddenly everyone decided to get sick. And it really hit us probably middle of March when our first big customers like Ford decided to close the factory. And they were telling us, oh, it's just going to be for a week. We're going to clean things up, go back to normal. And about 2 weeks into that, they said, well, this might go a little bit longer. And said, you kind of referenced 9/11. I ended up drawing upon a lot of the 9/11 experience from Boeing, and I actually took the team through, here's what's about to happen. Back in my Boeing days, I was, finance manager leading asset utilization for the wings on the day of 9/11. And kind of like with the pandemic here, within a matter of hours or days, the entire industry changed overnight, just blink of an eye. And a lot of it was not for good, but eventually it did turn. And so as we started looking around at our business and our customers and the economy and what we're doing, and we're trying to think about, okay, what's going to happen? How do we prepare for this? How do we understand what our customers are going to need? We started asking ourselves, well, who's really going to want digital transformation when the factories are closed and workers are dying and the economy's crumbling? What are they really going to need? And more importantly, what do we have to offer? That may be something that's totally unique or just out of the blue. And we held that session on March 27th. About 2 weeks later, we basically formally announced this connected workplace health. Might have been 3 weeks later that we met with Cindy and others, and about 5 weeks later, we got our first request for proposal. So it turned that fast. And so what I want to do today is, again, kind of cover the solution and what it's doing and why, but also from an entrepreneurial new business, sort of what's behind the bigger idea. And as we talk to folks about not just connected workplace health, but sort of the new connected workplace, what's the thought behind that and how is that transforming our business? So that's kind of the game for today. So let me go ahead and share the screen. And hopefully you can see this okay?
There, yes.
Okay. And again, this presentation hasn't changed much since, Cindy, we showed this to you back in April. And again, there's a lot of, COVID solutions out there, a lot of, phone apps, a lot of sort of things falling out of the woodwork. And we've intentionally describe what we're trying to help our customers do, called Connected Workplace. And again, you think about before the pandemic, in a manufacturing environment, in a retail environment, in a laboratory environment, education, right? Everyone could work together, move together, right? No one was tracking anything. It was really more about efficiency and productivity and collaboration. But that's all changed. And so when we started thinking about what are the challenges that companies will have, in particular, critical industries like manufacturing but really all of us, there's just a lot of things we've never had to deal with at this scale before. And it's one that we're still trying to grapple with in industries and communities around new hygiene protocols, expanded personal protective equipment, social distancing. I mean, that's one where, again, for the last 50 years, manufacturing has been all about integrated work teams. You'll see on the side of a toolbox, right, 2-person lift, right? You have to work together. Restricting employee movement. Your normal engineer, your normal expediter, their job is to walk the shop and interact with people. Now that's a potential threat. The continuous monitoring. It's obvious that we're not even close to figuring this thing out within the region and within the industry. But this monitoring of employee health may never end. Again, you think about 9/11 and the change to airport security from the day before to the day after to 10, 20 years later. You're still going through full scanners. And so we've heard from a lot of companies that even if they cured COVID tomorrow, will they ever risk shutting the economy down for 4 months ever again? And chances are no. The traceability. This isn't like wearing protective glasses where they're either on or off and you kind of can see the cranes coming or you can see the forklift driving. These potential exposures you can't see. And so the ability to have to trace them over time to an event that happened 2 days ago, 5 days ago, is something folks have never done. And then just the analytics and the predictive analytics. How to identify risk, high-risk groups. How do you manage in a workplace? And the potential for recurring exposures for years to come. You think about Columbus, the international businesses that are here, from Cummins and Forcia, NTN, LHP, right? People travel the globe as part of the business. And so the potential for someone to be walking in the door as part of their job, that may happen. Again, we may be at risk for years. And so all that's happening, boom, right now. Companies are trying to figure out how do they deal with it. Most of them don't have the tools. And it's a challenge that has never really faced any of our industries, but it's hitting us all at the same time. So it's not isolated to aerospace. It's not isolated to manufacturing. We're all dealing with it. And so in that comes an opportunity, which is kind of where we landed. And so what we try to think about is, okay, not just how do we help companies get people back to work, right, in this COVID environment, but what do they do on day 2? What's the challenge coming at them? And so great, you figured out how to do contact tracing and distancing. Now what? How do they revitalize their shop? How do they deal with spacing out the production line? How do they deal with an order board that's gone or new industry dynamics? And so again, with companies not being prepared for all this and the financial impact that we're all dealing with, good ideas, R&D projects, nobody has the appetite for. And so what we did at LHP is we took our healthcare analytics that we've been running for several years that really helps track and trace patients throughout the healthcare ecosystem, took that with our industrial IoT platform to create the connected workplace. And again, it's not just the connected employee or the connected health or contact tracing. It is a much bigger challenge, but a much bigger opportunity. Because what we want to do is have our customers, have people think about, you're back to work. How do you quickly and cost effectively leverage this transformational technology to thrive? And that was the lesson from the Boeing days that I tried to, and our team got was before 9/11, the whole airline industry was all about big airplanes that go really fast, and people pay top dollar to go from New York to LA in 2 hours. That was the industry. Or after 9/11, you could have a 2-hour flight, but it still took you 10 hours going through security because of all the all the airport constraints. And so the industry changed on a dime from big, fast, expensive to lean, efficient, cost-effective, data-centric solutions. And those that could pivot won the market. And so everyone's coming back to a real mess from an economy, from an industry, and it's a great equalizer. So we're all dealing with it. So if you were number 3 in the market, here's the chance that you can be better, faster, more agile, and transform your business. You can capture your market. And so what we're trying to help our customers think about, regional teams think about, our team think about, is this is the time to compete. And if you do it well, and if you focus on your customers, you can thrive. And it's that message around this connected workplace, around this solution, around this business is what's resonating with our customers. And in the process is helping LHP transform what we do from, a consulting company to now a product company offering a connected workplace. Okay. Now, Cindy, I'm not sure what the protocol here is, but if folks want to jump in and ask questions as we go, by all means. If we want to wait till the end, that's cool too. You got apparently you have the microphone. So.
I just have a question.
Yeah.
Predicting risk. I mean, are you going to get into the tool a little bit now?
Yes. Yep. We'll get into the tool and we'll talk about that, and actually we can show you how it works pretty quick. So
awesome. I'd like to know about that.
So here is our connected workplace health on a single screen that kind of shows what it is and how it works, and we'll get into the solution a little bit. And so what we're doing is we're combining, data inputs from the environment, from biometric data. This could be captured either by, little radar guns or big thermal cameras, or just personal input, health questionnaires, which are helping capture leading indicators that can be used for identifying potential risk, and then the workplace IoT sensors, and these could be everything from a smart badge to using RFID and existing sensors that are already in the workplace today. And so those come into our workplace, connected workplace solution, which does a couple things. One, allows you to manage your workplace, looking at heat maps and hotspots and identifying areas of risk, but also bring all that data together and integrate it with the rest of your workplace ecosystem to provide alerts, analytics, traceability, and those sorts of things. Okay. And again, we've had customers that they have nothing in terms of connectivity. You know, device. Some of them don't even have Wi-Fi in the factory. Others, you know, they've got all kinds of technology, but none of it is integrated into one big platform. And so our solution basically can do either. We can come in and be that first entry into IoT and digital, or we can be the integration platform that brings it all together as a larger initiative. And so we kind of look at it from before I jump into the solution itself, but really kind of walk you through where, again, an employee's got a smart badge, that data is being collected. And so from alerts and proximity, people get the anonymous information. The company gets the dashboard that's showing how are things performing, what kind of alerts, what kind of tracing events. You can set up zones within your facilities to look at hotspots and to manage population density. So this map in the middle, right, this might be you know, your bullpen where your engineers work. You know there's always 6 people there, so you set the density at 6. Here's our lab, the density might be 3. We've got 4, now there's an alert. You know, simple, you know, RFID reader size badges, and then the exposure analytics. And this is starting to get to, Cindy, some of that predictive analytics, but also proactive management. Where, again, let's say this gentleman here had reported the COVID incident. We could look at not just who did he come in contact with, but who did they come in contact with, and so on and so forth. And so from managing the business, yes, we want to make sure this individual gets the care and treatment he needs. But then we can look at the next level down saying, okay, what do we do with those folks? Do we get them tested? Do we put them in isolation? Do we send them home and have them monitor? Or do we evaluate their current health to see you know, who's at risk? And then same thing further down. Okay. What we've seen normally is it's like all or nothing. You have one person in the facility gets sick, everyone's out, we're going to scrub it, everyone back in, try it again. Versus who did this person have in contact with? So you think about LHP, think about Cummins, think about Boeing, right? We have multiple facilities within the facility, within the city. My job is to go to each one. Our facilities person's job. So do I know who he contacted with just doing his job and who might be at risk? And oh, by the way, last Tuesday, right, this person talked to this person who's starting to look kind of like he might be sick, and now these folks might be sick. And so that predictive analytics, the proactive management, is looking at this in volume and looking at the risk profile, looking at the biometric profile, looking at the heat maps from those facilities and from those regions, saying what's the risk level and what's the recommended action level. Okay.
Yeah.
And that's where all this data starts coming into play is the sooner you can see that, the sooner you can action, the better a company has of minimizing a potential exposure, of keeping operations moving while they're dealing with it, and preparing their business to operate in the midst of all that. So a good example, so these folks in the yellow, do you send them all home or do you send them to areas in the workplace where they can still be productive, yet be on site? Mm-hmm. The folks in the green, do you send them home or do you monitor? Do you send them out to test or do you monitor? And if you're running the business or you're the safety leader, the HR leader, the facilities leader, and you've got 20 facilities in the region, how do you do all that and see all that? And report that to your local agencies, track your OSHA requirements. You know, a lost day in the workplace because of COVID is still a lost work day. And it's also, again, an incident. And so that's where this data and the tools and the technology really help companies leverage digital transformation analytics to manage the COVID mitigation. Did that help, Cindy?
Yeah, it's really fascinating.
Yeah. And again, what we're seeing is companies are seeing this as step one of a lot of other safety initiatives. We go back to the facilities manager. He's got, you know, facilities folks spread across the city. How does he monitor his team? They might be up on the roof doing HVAC work. They might be in a tunnel doing plumbing. They might be behind a locked cabinet in a confined space. And so the monitoring of employee health goes beyond just COVID. It's average everyday safety monitoring. These tags that can manage proximity can also be put on tub skids and forklifts and material stores. And so this system can not only manage people movement, it can manage product movement. We're tying into.
Are those very expensive?
At volume, no. You can get those. Typically they're in the $60 range, but at volume you can, and kind of like with the cell phone, you can get them down to $3 per month per device. And again, with the competition getting into the hardware space, those costs are dropping even faster. And so what companies are saying, again, with this connected workplace is there's a cost to playing, but once you've paid that sort of entry cost, the business case pays for itself over and over and over and over and over again. The cost of this device and the system on a per employee basis is less than a half a shift's lost workday.
Wow.
And again, that's at volume. So if you got 4,000 people, you think about the cost to the business of one workday of shutting down, cleaning, getting back to work. You've paid for this system twice. And all the other use cases that can go along with it, including building management and density and safety and security and all these other use cases that this technology lends itself to. And the digital technology using analytics and getting your team back to work, innovating and producing. It's a pretty easy business case.
Michael, this is Manish. Just had a quick question here. Maybe we'll do this later. Just curious about the business model. So this is, now you're saying, a product offering, right? Is this a subscription-based model, or is this a one-time sort of somebody?
No, it's a subscription-based. It's a good question. And again, oftentimes, again, the hardware is a single play, but has more.
This is me.
No, I think there's a bad connection.
Multiple uses.
Yeah, we missed that.
This COVID or this trace. But also the fact that it can, again, lend itself to other safety and health use cases in the workplace beyond COVID.
Right.
We see this as a value offering that a company may never stop, but also adding in more and more modules to go along with this. Because this plugs into the building management system, now you've got security modules or utility modules. So from our business, the ability to add more and more modules from our customers.
Right.
They can just continue to use it as long as they need to and pay the subscription. Yep.
Okay. The other question Michael, I had related to this is, what does, I mean, now this naturally takes a company to believe that this is the new normal, right? That sort of we have to gear up for this. So as you're seeing sort of the early pickup, the early interest, what size of companies are actually like trying to sort of explore solutions like yours?
It's a great question. Again, it was funny because early on, like everyone jumped in and like just to learn about it. And then people started stepping back, trying to think about, ooh, that's a lot of new things, or can we try to do this our own, or we're a small shop, or we're actually seeing small companies, 50 people. So you think about doing that contact tracing with 50 people, trying to remember where all 50 of those people were for the last 5 days. And we're seeing, small groups, we're seeing big, massive organizations, 80,000, 100,000 people, areas, that have sometimes workers who can't even read. I mean, they are, migrant workers, but the cost of losing labor, the cost of not having the labor in the workforce is critical to the business. So this is starting to touch a lot of different industries. We're definitely focused on, the manufacturing, and even further the food and some of the critical manufacturing industries like food processing, who this is the only way they can run the business. But there are so many other industries that are also stepping forward. We're talking with one of the largest cruise line companies in the world. We're talking to major commercial real estate companies. And so there's a theme to the customers that are showing up to our door. And it's one that having workers or having their business literally open is tied to revenue. So they can't do everything remotely. Two, that workplace and that business is like mission critical to a region or for the economy. It's really kind of one of these backbone kind of an industries. Three, they are seeing that digital is the way to compete. And so they are looking for an IoT, a digital solution, not just a cell phone app or a one-off. And then the fourth one is that they are seeing this as a way to compete. They are seeing this as a narrowing down of a way of capturing market share, a way of attracting, either new business or something else. So all those, and if I look at the companies that have shown up, different industries, different regions, the same for kind of critical things. So one of our first customers is a lab out in Napa Valley, California, and their business is around mixing wines and the chemical sort of analysis behind that. Harvest season happens once a year and only once a year. And if they're not open, right, they're out of business. And so they've got to have engineers and scientists and farmers and, working together to blend wines and to run their business. And then you think about, again, food processors, manufacturers, distribution, retail, cruise lines, right? Very similar kind of opportunity.
Yep. Oh, thank you.
Mike, I know you've recently added kind of a key team member to help you ramp up quickly. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, let me kind of actually kind of blew that down the very end. I'll blast through that. So,
okay.
So here's the team. So again, what's been happening since really April is our team has been morphing from a consulting company to a product. And is one where we are definitely in uncharted waters for our team, but uncharted waters for LHP, but also getting a lot of attention industry wide. And so we've been found someone that can help. And it's one of those, as a leader, I think it's one of the greatest achievements maybe you could have is when you hire someone to take your job. Because that's the add to the team that is really needed to go to the next level. And so we went out and again, leveraging, Dave's network and our network, found Dominic Wild from former HPE, former a startup company executive who's done this a few times. Didn't convince him to move from Silicon Valley, but definitely convinced him to join LHP to be the new CEO of this new business. Help us really transform this, the initial product, this initial business really into something that we think can have a pretty big future. So next time we'll get Dominic to give the pitch, but also talk a little bit about his background. I think he's a good example of the kind of talent Indiana and Columbus can attract with the type of business opportunities that are here. And so he's been on board for about a couple of weeks now. He's still learning how to swim, but he's also, again, an incredible leader, brings skills that we don't have. And together, we've got just a great team to kick this off. I get to move into all the fun stuff. So, Dominic's he's got the challenge of, okay, I got to raise money, we got to grow the business, we've got to build a business around the business. I get to do the fun stuff like strategy and sales and that kind of stuff. James Roberts, who's been my partner now since the Cummins days, moving into our VP of engineering, and then this crazy guy Dave Glass. Be careful when you have lunch with Dave. You might start a business with him. Coming in as again a strategic investor with LHP. So we think we're in a great shape business wise from what we're offering, but even more importantly from the team we've put together. And again, I think that's one lesson learned that I've learned from other great leaders we've heard about, and again, seeing other companies maybe wait too long is failing to bring in the right talent at the right time. And again, sometimes your best move as a leader is to sort of fire yourself, bring in that right person, and go do what I do well, and partner up, and so it's again a great testament. And again, when we were surprised that Dominic answered the phone, but then we basically asked him, "Do you see what we see? Do you see the big opportunity here? And does being home based in Columbus, Indiana matter?" He's like, "No, it's actually better." But he's like, "Yeah, I see the big win here. I see the big thing." I was like, "Okay, he's like, you want to play?" And he's like, "Yeah, I'm in." So.
That's really exciting.
Yeah, very exciting. And again, think about it from a time frame. I mean, literally in the midst of the worst pandemic ever, when our customers, every one of them, closed up shop for 4 months, cutting spend, cutting initiatives, we didn't lose a single employee. We've continued to run our core business profitably. We shifted everyone's focus from panic and concern to, if you weren't busy on your existing product, or initiative. You were helping us build this one. And we've launched this new business that sky's the limit. So very exciting. Again, Brian and I were laughing about that the other day. Just think about how fast this turned. It's incredible. So.
And I know we made you kind of leapfrog in your slide deck, but
That's all right. That's all right.
You had some existing capabilities because of some clients in healthcare, and you kind of married up two industries you were working in, right?
Yeah, and it was just that we were working with some industry, some healthcare, and what they were trying to do was track employee health as they came out of the hospital, and then move through their facilities ecosystem. So sort of this monitoring of extended care, proactive care management, and so we had that. I mean, again, it was literally, what do we have that can help? So we had that piece, and we had the industrial IoT, so I'm doing smart factory with companies like Ford and Meritor and Case New Holland and all the stuff we've been doing at Boeing for years on end. And literally in a week's time frame, we've just put that together. And it's like, and we floated it past a few folks. We're like, yeah, let's run with it. It went that fast. And there's a chart I want to kind of get back to. It's this chart here, which is this crisis curve that we talked to our team about. But it's also, again, if I think about the post 9/11, what the heck just happened, what's going to happen, and how do we turn this from a panic and a free fall to really a whole new business. And it's like, called it this crisis curve, where there's this, the crisis happens, whether it's 9/11, financial crisis in 2008, COVID in 2020. There's this sort of period where I was like, we're okay, right? I call it the arc of denial. Our backlog's good, our industry's good, our region's good, never happened to us. We'll always need digital transformation. And then reality sets in. And then the cost cutting happens. And then our customers say, we're not going to open the factories. We're not buying anymore. Oh, by the way, we're going to cut some stuff. And then all of a sudden you go from that to, we don't know how far this thing goes. And it was that panic and that look in the eyes of my team that I was starting to see, that I saw in teams at Boeing 20 years ago. And back in the Boeing days, during 9/11, before 9/11, we were building ahead the wing because we were going to build the Sonic Cruiser in the down year. And when 9/11 hit, and when airlines cut all their orders, we had enough wings built that would last us through February. And this was September. So we had 4 months worth of inventory, and we were in a free for all and a free fall. And so what we wanted to do is you go down through this where you cut and you cut and you cut. You live off your inventory war room. You live off your working capital. You consolidate facilities because you don't have enough people to fill up a building. And now you have 2 half-empty buildings, so you consolidate and you consolidate. But then there's this new paradigm. Suddenly you see an airline making money. And it's not the big fast planes, it's the 737. And so when you understand the new paradigm, then you can see, well, how long, how fast, how can I totally redesign everything we do and capture the market when they finally come back? And if I can get there before anybody else, I saw 1,000 airplanes, which is what we did on the 787. We sold 1,000 airplanes, 787s, at $125 million an airplane. So do the backlog, do the math and count your backlog. with nothing more than a PowerPoint slide and a CATIA fly-through video. That's all we had. And that's kind of what we did here with our connected workplace is we kind of saw what it would take. We packaged it, we got it out in front of folks, getting our customers to think about this recovery and how could they turn this crisis into a recovery. And that's where we kind of introduced the connected health, which is how do we unlock the doors, figuratively, but really unlock the employees instead of, again, think about Maslow's hierarchy. If you're worried about safety in the workplace, are you going to be innovative? Are you going to be productive? No, you're like scared to death. So we wanted to unlock, the mindset, get them back into a connected workplace where they can now innovate and make the race to that recovery point. Because if you're first there, you're the first one on the exponential margin, which is where they can totally transform the whole industry. And so that's sort of the message behind the message behind the message is, is instead of, IoT and digital about sort of this big transformation at the starting that, we're really starting at the bottom, the employee. It's all about employee health. And the employee health in the workplace is the foundation for everything moving forward. That's the lesson of the pandemic.
Yeah.
It's all about health and health in the workplace. And if you can give teams a tool to deal with that, you can unlock all kinds of potential.
And I would think that it's also about employee commitment to the business.
Yes.
My employer
Yes.
cares about me.
Yes.
And it makes an employee have some peace of mind, but also
It's a lot. Yes.
sense of
You got it.
loyalty, right?
You got it. You got it. And that's, again, the companies that are showing up get that. It's all about the employees. It's back down to, the basics. Provide a safe place for your workers. Job one. That's your only job.
Yeah.
Once that's done, then you can start thinking about the other stuff. And that's the lesson and that's the challenge with COVID, where you got a space and you've got a contact and all that, is how do you do that, but still work together and innovate?
Mike, are you talking to some of the really hard hit industries like meat processing and nursing?
Definitely. They're our first. Yeah. So we're working. One of our first customers is a food. It's a flour and oil company in Mexico. Another big customer we're working with is a massive food processor in Saudi Arabia, and we're getting calls from around the globe. Not just for a one-off, give me a contact tracing tool, but give me this connected workplace, because we need to transform our environment to compete and to win and get back to work. So definitely food processing is one of the biggest industries because of just the lifeblood of the economy, but also COVID has restricted labor movement. And so they've got to take care of their workers because there are no more workers waiting, they're running out of workers. You can't move people around as easily as you could before.
Right.
And so they're going to spend more money on their workers and health than they've ever thought they would have to. But they now understand, the employees are the key.
And just for the record, I now know more about the Saudi Arabian chicken market than I ever wanted. So
we've got a couple minutes left. What other questions do you have, those of you on the call?
Yeah, Michael, I have one other question. How, with all of this happening, right? I mean, clearly, it's just a little bit there's a lot of sensitive data here. How is
Mhm.
how are you thinking? Are there privacy standards emerging out of all of this? Because think about what sort of somebody might be
Yep.
trusting you with, right? It's about sort of the wellness of their
Yeah.
workforce, right? And comparatively, also that's very, very sensitive information. So how's that whole landscape playing out?
Yeah, great question. We get that quite a lot. And we handle it in a number of ways. One is we're not storing any PII or HIPAA compliant data in our system or in these sensors. And so again, we're not tracking an individual's biometric readout and predicting their health. So we're not diagnosing their health. We're monitoring their movement and proximity and location. And so that's step one. Step two, from a data security, from an overall systems management, again, we're using all the best practices and our customers' information security protocols. Even if it's PII, but it's still sensitive, we're handling it accordingly. So the teams that we work with at our customers include HR, legal, IT, health and safety, their medical teams, to ensure that all the data is being handled appropriately. The unions are involved because this is tracking employee at this level is new. And so there's agreements with management and employees about how this data is used and not used. And finally, these dashboards and these tools are not meant to be a reader board that you put on the side of the production line. These are tools for a few people in the business: health and safety, HR, the employee, to manage risk. And finally, to answer that is an employer ultimately has the responsibility to provide a safe workplace for their employee. And if that requires them to take health measurements, they have that obligation and that right to ensure you're safe. So whether it's a temperature check, or it's a drug screening, or it's PPE or fall protection, right? The company ultimately has the responsibility and the onus. And if they demonstrate that's required, then that's required. And there are existing OSHA regulations around, viral infections and those things that are already in place that we're now following.
Okay.
But it's one that we talk a lot through. We educate everyone on. We get teams to work together so that they all understand how it works and who owns what and who owns what data. And then we're able to build that into the system, whether it's role-based security or authentication, or literally what data is in what part of the system.
Excellent. Thank you.
But great question. Great question.
I think this is just fantastic. I'm so intrigued at the process behind it and just how quickly you went from sort of your core business to this new approach.
Yeah, it was, and again, it was 9/11 all over again. I mean, and so 9/11 is one of those the worst day in the world. But I was asset utilization leader for the wings, so my job was consolidating. And so on the day of 9/11, when FAA shut down the airports and grounded all flights for that first week, we had airlines that afternoon asking us to pause orders, and by Friday we were canceling the entire order board. And by Monday we were into this free fall. And that's what we were looking at. That's what our customers were looking at. And so we took the action, and so we're trying to use that as a lesson for us. But the message to our customers is, if I draw the LHP line, right, we went to this discretionary, and our line has kind of cut across the top of these bubbles up. We didn't have to experience, this downfall. We didn't have to hit rock bottom to figure out how this industry turns, because we were able to look, we had the data, we had the experience. And so we're trying to get our customers to see the same thing, as their curve does not have to follow this. Their curve, they've got the ability to stop this curve anytime and, right, capture this new paradigm, because we don't know is that going to be tomorrow? Is it going to be next month? Is it going to be a year from now? Yeah. So that's kind of, again, from the, we just shake our heads, is it can turn that fast. And that's what's exciting. And if you got the team behind you working at it, you have great support, crazy people willing to jump in, maybe you can make a business out of this.
It's great to hear the positivity.
Yeah.
I want to thank you for being with us today and sharing this story, and it'll just be great fun to watch where it goes. So thanks for your time, Mike and Brian, and good luck to you. Manish, you're up next week. Do you want to give us a sneak preview?
Sure. Michael, this was excellent presentation. First of all, I have to say, just sort of looking ahead, right, and being able to commit to something like this, knowing that, betting on the fact that this is what the new world will look like. I think that is what, that's what makes this really interesting. So all the best in this journey. I really, really do think this is a fantastic model. I'm looking forward to my discussion next week. I'll tell you a little bit about my own story here. So, like I mentioned, I was formerly with Cummins. I've sort of worked my entire life, with other companies, right? And I've always had the itch to do something on my own. So 2 years back, I took the plunge. I quit my job and decided to focus full time on building a company around a problem I was facing, that I saw a lot of families facing, which was about keeping your home life in sync, through management of, to just being able to manage your schedule, your tasks, your, information, all kinds of things, right? So we spend so much time and effort trying to keep our workplace organized. We don't spend the same time trying to keep the home, in order. So the idea was to really build a platform that families could use to stay more connected, and share information. So that's what really led to the formation of my company, which is called 9BX. So I'll share a bit more about the product next week when we meet. But it's an app that's available both on iOS and Android. Great. And we launched on May 1st, so it's been exciting, learning, seeing how consumers adopt your product. Sai knows a little bit about it. Cindy knows a little bit about it as well. Cindy was a beta tester in all of this, so good to get her early feedback. So I'd love to talk to you a little bit more next week. So hopefully this helps, Cindy.
Yes, absolutely. We're looking forward to it. Yeah. Hey, thank you all. Have a great Friday. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.
All right. Thank you.